Welcome back to Stasis, everybody. We're now in the sewers, but that's okay because we're going to use the sewers to get to some places that we couldn't go to before. Eventually, our end objective is to get back to exactly where we were at the start of the last video. But in the process, we're going to end up picking up a couple of items and eventually finding a way to get the gas out from behind that door in a way that doesn't kill us. Something you might notice as I mouse over some of these bodies is that some of them have pictures. A lot of these bodies were here because one of the Kickstarter rewards for this game was to have your likeness in, and this is one of the places where that likeness could be put. Now we're going to climb up this grate and end up in the entertainment area, which we couldn't get to before, and I had to get a little creative with censoring this, but there's a hologram of a naked lady dancing on the table, as well as a lot more corpses.
See, if these people weren't just killed, look like they've been skinned.
Eaten?
No. I went hunting with my uncle when I was a kid. I know what skinning looks like. I did it myself, but I saw it.
I'm a vegetarian.
Helpful as always, Taya. Anyway, we're going to head over to the holographic projector, not just because of what it's projecting.
This looks like a recent edition.
Oh? Well, in that case, it should be easy to remove with our drill.
This is a useful drill.
Yes, that's a rather cheery note for this room full of skinned, piled up bodies. But on the plus side, we do now have a holographic emitter. In the midst of all these dead bodies, there are a couple of PDAs that we can check out. And this first one is from someone who's kind of a space cadet. And I don't mean a literal space cadet. Neville Chambers is a custodian on the Groom Lake who has always had the goal of getting out to space, and finally did it. He's also writing a comic book in his free time, in which his sidekick is Carl Sagan. Stephen Hawking has some sort of cybernetic suit and can crush stuff with it, and he also has Einstein as part of his super team. He writes a couple of issues of the comic book, and eventually loses it in all the stuff that goes down on the Groom Lake, and he just says he's going to stare out the window and admire the universe until something comes and kills him. That was the short PDA. Now for the considerably longer one. This one written by Stacy Dippenar. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. We do find out some interesting things from this PDA though. Stacy is an underage worker who used falsified documents in order to start working on the King Core ship, and she tried volunteering for Project Seed, which we've heard about a couple of times now. And in order to do that, you have to be over 18 years old, and you have to have had a pregnancy, or carried a pregnancy late to term and then had a miscarriage. She had an abortion on her baby, so she was disqualified. And they also revealed that they know she's underage, but let her keep working on the ship anyway. Explosions happen, the trams get shut down, and she suggests that they use the tubes that they send experiments through to get people to medical so they can get treated. And her friend Tammy ends up going with them. Tammy and the group don't come back, and she ends up blaming herself for killing Tammy. She spirals further and further into depression to the point where she wants to be killed by whatever's running loose on the ship, and even ends by saying she'll sit closer to the door of the entertainment area so that she can die first and maybe give everyone else an extra second or two. Now then, our primary focus is going to be that cigarette vending machine at the top of the screen. And it's going to take a little bit to get there because, for whatever reason, in this area the pathfinding is pretty strange. I can stand right next to this pool table, but if I try to click on it to look at it, it'll send me back around the other pool table. So, now that we're at the vending machine, we find that we can't use it. So we're going to have to do this the hard way. Fortunately, somebody left a hollow cue pool cue on the pool table next to the dead bodies. So we're going to grab that real quick. And now we're going to get into that vending machine the fun way. Just remember, if nobody sees it, it's not vandalism. That's how it works out in space. Now with the pool cue in hand, we can smash our way into the vending machine. And we're going to find not cigarettes, but a lighter. And doing that did not break the pool cue, so that's going to stay in our inventory for now. In fact, we're going to need both of these things for a puzzle a little bit later. But we've done all that we can here, so we're going to backtrack a bit to the other side of the sewer. And once we get there, we're going to get a hint for our first major puzzle that doesn't involve using items. As you can see, we're in this new area with a big drain in the middle, but that's not the focus. Our focus is going to be on that pattern on the wall in the upper right. These arrows correspond to a code that we can enter later, and you can tell by the drawings that they correspond to commands to fill the reservoir and then drain the reservoir. As you might be able to infer from the way that the light pattern is going, the arrows on top are the pattern to fill it, and the arrows on the bottom, which are the exact opposite, are the ones that you enter to drain it. But for now, we have to make our way to that reservoir and enter one of those commands. But along the way...
Jeez! Goddamn cat. Here, kitty, 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 kitty. Ch-ch-ch. Come here, come here. I won't hurt you. I can't believe that just happened.
And that is how we finally get an achievement for somebody else dying. In this case, Jupiter. Yes, there's another PDA, but fortunately the entries in it are really short. This is a person who works alongside Grant and is worried that Jupiter is going to die of methane inhalation. He also injures his ankle, so he can't move around very much, and then things start to go to shit on the groom lake. He can't help out with the people going to Tram Station B because he doesn't know anything about trams. People think that the fungus is something spread by aliens because they're idiots. And then he mentions one person who's not old enough for this, and then he asks the rhetorical question, who is old enough for this? And I would say, based upon the themes and imagery in this game, people ages 17 and up would be old enough for this. Although that's if you're going by the ESRB, which, frankly, I've never 100% agreed with. Anyway, here's a puzzle.
This is the elevator to the annex.
Can you climb it?
No. It's just a shaft. I can't see an entrance. Tim, methane is explosive, right?
Highly.
Why would there be methane tanks under the crew quarters?
Kane doesn't care about safety. They're driven by profit.
Think of it this way, John. If the methane explodes, something's probably wrong on the ship. If something's wrong on the ship, people will need to escape. And if people need to escape, the methane will simply blast the crew quarters out into space like its own little escape pod. I made a safety save here because I was actually trying something a little different with the pump station. You cannot raise the water level any further. So we're simply going to drain it. Oh, and by the way, this sound still exists. Guess it's thematically appropriate because we're dealing with plumbing now. We're going to put the arrows the opposite way of the lit up arrows that were on that wall, and that is going to drain all the water out of this section. But we're still not done here yet. We might be able to walk around in this area, but our ultimate goal is to be able to get up the elevator shaft back to where we were before, and we still can't do that at the moment. So once we're done here, we're going to climb down and take a closer look at these methane tanks.
No, that won't work.
I beg to differ, John. We saw that interactive hand icon appear when we hovered over the gas. So yes, the methane is a key part of this puzzle, but there is a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it.
You said it's been 3 months since all of this happened. Shouldn't there be a rescue mission on the way?
This is a deep space vessel. It can operate indefinitely. If it wasn't for the psychological effects of deep space travel, she wouldn't even need a new crew.
So nobody's looking for us?
No, and even if they were, there's no way for them to find us. 3 months is a long time adrift.
Nice to know that we're the sci-fi horror equivalent of Gilligan's Island, but for now, we've positioned ourselves right next to the methane tanks, so what is the smartest thing we could possibly do? Well, first we're going to lodge the lighter into this pipe grip, which is right next to the leaking methane gas, and I am going to make a safety save here. I know I already did it before, but now we've actually drained the water and I'm in position. So let's just light the lighter right here. And that is how you get the blown up achievement. Now let's try and be a little smarter about this. We have the lighter lodged in the pipe clip, but we have to be a certain distance away so that we aren't affected by the explosion. So we're going to climb back up to this catwalk and come all the way back around to where the rail is broken off. And now we're positioned above the pipe clip. So let's use that pool cue that we still have and light the lighter, and somehow being just a few feet away is going to keep us completely safe from that explosion. Though I am kind of impressed that he can light a lighter with a pool cue. We're fine. Never mind that it looked like our head was completely inside that explosion. I do kind of like the ear ringing effect though. By the way, that gets you the achievement, why are there methane tanks under the crew quarters?
It's here, I can get back up to the crew quarters.
And we are right back where we were at the beginning of the previous video. So next time on Stasis, we're going to have to go backwards before we can go forwards.